French-speaking people. Now, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Dieudonné Kahozi, originally from the Congo, born in the Congo. And I moved to Canada in 1991 in May. And I've settled in Montreal, and I don't think I am moving out of there soon. My roots are really well established there. I love Montreal, I love the French people, I love Quebec, and it's just amazing to serve God there. When I got there, I was not saved. The Lord found me there, and it's through trouble. I was not a good guy, you know, but the Lord has been very, very good. So there's no merit really in everything that is going on. It's all by the grace of God, you know. And so if we look at French-speaking people, the face of the French people is not what it used to be anymore. When we talk about French, forget the image of the guy with the beret and the baguette under his arm. It's the French, it's not that anymore. Of course, France, due to the involvement in colonizing countries and all that, French has become like an official language for many, many countries. I think there is about 29 or 27 countries that have French as the official language. Now, French is from France, but France is not the first French-speaking country in the world right now. The Congo is, with a population of 84 million souls. 84 million souls. That is the first French-speaking country in the world right now. France comes second, and then I forget which one is third. So the face of French-speaking people now, it's mostly African. 70% of French-speaking population live in Africa. So you will meet a lot of people of color that are French-speaking people. Now, I like the concept of French evangelism because it gets us away from cultural war. Because under the French language, there is a variety of culture. And you have to be a little bit aware of who you're talking to or who you are dealing with. Because a French from Europe, it's a totally different culture than French from Africa. A Francophone, even from Africa, there is so many countries that speaks French in Africa. And all of them, they have kind of a different kind of base for their culture. But we're going to try to narrow it down to some essential. And quite frankly, you're going to realize that when we narrow it to the essentials, winning a soul, it's basically the same. It's basically the same everywhere. And the first thing you need to have is just the love. You have to love people. And when you love people, you can win them wherever they are. Chinese, French, whatever. Love is the first thing. We have to love them. And if we don't love them, there's no way we can win them. Second thing, if you love them, you have to show them that you care. You have to show them that you're interested in their life, not what they're going to bring, but what they need. It needs to be more about them than more about us. So those are kind of essential. And of course, we need to have the truth, which we have. We should really stand strong and don't make any apology, because we have the truth. We do have what the word needs. We are the church of the living God. so we can just go out boldly and do what we need to do. Now, that is one side of the French-speaking population. But if we look at North America, the first thing we're going to notice that in North America itself, there is a French imprint. I don't know empreinte. A fingerprint of the French culture here in North America, and it's very strong. If we look in North America itself, the highest concentration of French-speaking people, it's in Quebec. Quebec is 90% French-speaking, and it's the least evangelized part of North America. One shocking statistic, and I always throw that out, you have more chance to be reached with the gospel in Pakistan than you have in Quebec. We have more churches per person in Pakistan than we have in Quebec. It doesn't make any sense. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. Pakistan it's a Muslim country. It doesn't make any sense. We need to change that, and we are on the way to changing that. We are on the way to changing that. Now, if you after Quebec, you have another strong concentration of French-speaking people in New Brunswick. And in Maine, in the state, I think it's the second place where you'll see French-speaking people. Other than that, you will see French culture, like in Louisiana. There is really a fingerprint of French-speaking people in North America. One fact that always also impressed me is the city of Chicago was founded by a Frenchman. I think his name is Jean-François Dussable. He was a mix of Asian and French. He's the founder of Chicago. When you go downtown Chicago, you see his statue right in the middle of the city. You find a French heritage in Minnesota, Louisiana, of course, in Maine, in Iowa. You will see a lot of French roots, names, and you'll be shocked. And those are things that you can use to kind of start something. It's really shocking. Now, the other aspect, the one that we are witnessing now, it's immigration. With immigration, there is a lot of French immigrants in North America. You will be surprised what that is bringing really to North America. We have refugee. There is two different categories of immigrant. There are refugee immigrant, people who run away from war-torn zone. It's a really different way of approach. There is another category is student, immigrant students. Also, it's a different approach. With refugee, you'll find a lot of difficult situation, low level sometimes of education, and it's a different group of people. But with students, most of them come from prominent family, well established, very highly educated, and you can really reach out easily. The communication is easily established, and when you give the truth, you end up having open doors in country of origin because of position and influence. Now, I really thank God for the United Pentecostal Church and the organization and the voice they're giving to all these different cultures, because the need is there, and I believe that's where we're seeing the fastest growth in the United Pentecostal churches among the multicultural group. Now, French ministry, it is organized like that. It's self-supporting. We depend on people who like commit to give monthly to support the work. Now, when we start getting involved with French ministry, we had one major challenge. First challenge was documentation. We didn't have really nothing to use. Everything was in English. I remember, this is really a funny story. They've been trying to get a hold on the Exploring God's Word in French for like 10 years between Quebec and the headquarters. And finally, when we get the first copies of the manual, they were in Russian. They were not in French. So that triggered something in us. We just decided that we're going to translate that and do it on our own. So we translate the Exploring God's Word in Montreal, and but that was really the beginning of what is now established as a well-organized team. The Exploring God's Word was the first thing to be translated. Yes.
I'm so sorry. When did you do that?
That was 13 years ago.
Oh, okay, because we probably bought ours from you then, because we have them.
Yes. Yeah. So that started a trend, like we need to do this on our own. So we were not organized at the time till Brother Grant and Sister Leanne got on board, and Sister Leanne been very instrumental in setting up like a more professional team. And now we have a lot of material translated, Sunday school material, doctrinal book, and church planning books. I think we have the right, the authorization to translate all of Brother Bernard's books into French. Right now, all those resources, and that's the beauty of it, all those resources are available for free on electronic version. Online you can go and just download whatever we have. Everything we have, it's free, but only in French. So you have to learn French. Yeah, we were blessed to get that permission, but we have to use it. So everywhere you are, you can translate. We have, if you go by our table there, the hard copy we have to sell because it costs to print them. But if you need an electronic version, you can download it for free. We have those, how you call mark books, with the website where you can go and download those material. We have Sunday school material, we have discipleship material, we have doctrinal books, and now we have a very, very, very big challenge. I think that is the biggest challenge we had, and thank God we're doing good. We need to translate all the required reading material to licensed ministers in French. And if the Lord lay a burden on you, just contact us. It's costing us around $5,000 to translate the book. And we have about 30 books to translate. So far we raised close to $100,000, and if you have $50,000, you don't know what to do with. Feel free to contact us. We're gonna make sure we finish translating all the reading material required for licensing, because if we're going to reach the French, we need to train people. Training is key. We might have a burden, but if our training is not appropriate, we're not going to go very far. We have a lot of young people on fire for God, but resources is very limited, very limited, very limited. I'm gonna just feel free to talk about resources right now. You know, between Canada and North America, it's about 30 to 35 million souls that speaks French, that we can reach in French. But in our account, we have, I think, a little bit less than $9,000. Now, $9,000, if you divide by even 9 million, you have like 10 cents per head. You know, gonna go very far with that. So we need really churches to get on board, people to get on board. That's why we have forms out there to register and be partner with us to help us do the work. We do various things. We have young men who are ready to travel, but we want to help them do that. We do a yearly trip to Madison, Wisconsin. We have African French church there. Every year we are there at least once. We're trying to make that twice. And there is places that, you know, they would like just to have a French ministry that will go and just do the work.
Amen.
And most of them, even if they don't have like the means to get the person there, we want to be able to get somebody there and do Bible studies and preach and motivate and let them carry on. We had a work in Urbana. It's been a long time since we visited them. We have works in Brunswick. There is a lot going on amongst the French. Now, if you want to stay connected, there is a few websites you can visit as well. If you ask any of these young men, we were talking about it, we should make business card with all these websites that you can go and connect with what is going on. There is really a lot going on among the French people here in North America, and it's also spilling back to Africa. There is a connection. When you reach out to a soul here, the first thing you know, they're reaching out to the family back home. We have baptized a lot of people in Africa due to connection of a member of the family here. And very interesting stories. I remember once one of our sisters wanted to renew her passport. She's from the Congo. So she called the Congolese embassy in Ottawa in Canada, started talking to the secretary there, and they talked for an hour and a half, preached to her the gospel. She was crying on the phone, went and got baptized in our church in Ottawa, and she called her family back in the Congo, Kinshasa, and 5 of them got baptized. Stuff like that happens a lot because those fresh immigrants, they still have a lot of ties back home. And after you find the truth, you want your family to find the same truth. And we have students who go back from vacation. They reach out to the families, and we have reports of 7 receive the Holy Ghost, 8 receive the Holy Ghost, and baptized in the backyard of their home. Maureen was there. She went on vacation. First time on vacation back home. The day they arrived, Bible study at home, 8 souls received the Holy Ghost. Stuff like that happens over and over. We have one young man who was with us in Canada. He finished his schooling, but he delayed a little bit to do his permanent resident application. And because of that, Canada asked him to leave the country. He was very disappointed, and he felt like the devil was after him. But then he went back to the Congo Brazzaville. But since he's been there, he's been working with our missionaries there. I think they are like close to 80 received the Holy Ghost. He's helping a great deal, and with his help, they started a preaching point in the second city. They were there 3 weeks ago, and they had like 37 received the Holy Ghost, and over 20 baptized in Jesus' name. But he was reached out in Montreal when he came as a student, and now he's working with a missionary back home. Last year, we organized a trip with 10 of our young people in church. Those young people, they pay for their own fare to go to the Congo. That was like close to $2,000 per head to travel there. We were there for 3 weeks, 10 of us. We did some ministerial training with 39 young men out there. And we did some Sunday school crusade and Sunday school teacher training. By the end of our 3 weeks, we had 278 receive the Holy Ghost, and 76 were baptized in Jesus' name. And it's back and forth, back and forth. French is really striving, and it's time to get on board and just help push the kingdom forward. In Montreal, that's where we have, the highest concentration of French-speaking people in Canada. It's the biggest city. Montreal, I think, is the third largest French city in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Over close to 4 million people. Montreal, the suburb. Right now, out of our daughter works in Saint-LAURENT, we have 8 preaching point daughter work in churches. 2 of them are established. 3 daughter works and 3 preaching point that are really also growing.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, is that okay? I don't
Yes, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm Jerry Hansen this way from Ottawa. I didn't know
Yes,
you recognized me.
yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to do a plug for you.
Yeah.
Because we in Ottawa, we're right beside Quebec, so we have I don't even know what the stats is, but we have a lot of French speaking. And we're getting a lot of what you had mentioned, African and immigration and island individuals, families that are only French speaking, and we're getting also churches that are not stable, that are losing their French speaking people that are used to go to French churches that are coming now to Calvary. And we're an English church. And so it's been phenomenal, and one thing that has been huge for me is that I am not French speaking. I am French, but I'm not French speaking. And my husband is not French speaking. Now we have some leaders that are French speaking, but it's not the same as the pastor speaking to the people. And so, in the years past, we've had leaders kind of bridge the gap between our French speaking individuals, and we did not see a great difference because they're not connected to the shepherd. And so, the big thing for me is to try to speak French. Even if you're speaking childlike, broken, you got cue cards, you got your Google Translate out, whatever you're doing to try to speak French, because these individuals are trying to speak English. And it's really, really hard, and it's really, really scary, and it's embarrassing. And so for me, they're coming in and they're sheepish, they're standoffish, they don't want to communicate because they're afraid to, you know, look dumb. So I'm just gonna look dumb first. And I'm just gonna start talking, and then they start feeling more comfortable to try English, and so they speak broken English and I speak broken French, and eventually we get something said, and it's made a world of difference. The other big thing is that Sister Leanne Grant, she is amazing. If you need anything, you need to email her for resources. She told us at Ladies Conference, you can buy ladies ministry books on Amazon in French now. Stuff from headquarters for discipleship and stuff and holiness has been translated. The other thing is she has music that's translated, same like choruses and stuff like that she has chorded out. She's a musician, so you can learn different things like that.
What's your name?
Leanne Grant.
Oh,
Yeah, you have it here. There is a card with the contact here.
And if you want an audio of it, I'm sure she would send you an audio of what the songs sound like as well, so you can learn the songs. The other thing was what we have done is because our culture is so, when you're talking about culturally French, it's not just the language, it's culture. And so like you're saying about learning other people's culture, it's really important that don't try to amalgamate them to your culture. You've got to flex, you gotta blend cultures and not try to clone them to your culture. And so what we have done is we plugged into your ladies conference now. And our French ladies have just like, oh my land, they're like kids in Toys R Us. They love it because they get to worship in French. And I mean, we do a little bit of French worship, but it's different because it's not cultural worship, right? And the Quebec church is cultural French worship. And they come in and they're like, oh, this is amazing. So I want to encourage you, like, I know it's a trip from Texas to Quebec, but it is worth it. If you have any French people, bring them to the conferences in Quebec and let them, and plug into it, because you will not be sorry. Like, they will come out different people, and even if you have to subsidize the trip, it's worth it for your people so that they can get there, because that's when you said about loving people. That's what's important. You got to invest in them personally, and that will make the difference. They will know that they are valued beyond measure. And Quebec is doing an amazing job.
You know, let me just throw it out there, because we do that a lot. It's part of our culture. If you want to come to Montreal, just let us know. And the cost is not a big deal. We host people. We used to live together. We share. I mean, some have gone through that experience. We don't usually want to put a lot of people at the hotels. We have a lot of families that welcome people, and we want to send the group. Let us know. We'll plug them, ladies with ladies and guys with guys.
That's awesome.
And I mean, it's a life connection. It's life connection. And I want to talk a little bit about the culture, the do's and don'ts. And it's very important, as I said, under the umbrella of French, you'll find a lot of culture, a lot of different culture. But one thing though you can do is this: if you don't speak French, the first thing is this: don't ever be shy to speak a language. I've been a broken language. I'm telling you, it's a tool. It's a powerful tool, because it sends a strong message. I don't know the language, but I'm doing my best to speak it. Please, nobody will kind of look down on that. Nowhere where I've been, I speak 5 languages, but nowhere I've been in my process of learning a language that people make fun of me. No, they're mostly interested. They like it. Show your love toward them. It show your respect toward them, and it attracts attention. And I'm telling you, it's just it's powerful. Don't they say language is a barrier? I always I agree with that. Language is a barrier. It's not a wall. A barrier, it's meant to be open. And it gives access. It's not a wall. So if you use it the way it should be used, it's played to your advantage. So speak that not so good French or the broken French. It's an attracting factor. I used to reach out to Nepalese and do Bible study with them. I learned few words. I'll talk to them. I'll greet them in the words. I'll know how to say good food in Nepalese. And just because of that, they will use it more.
That's right.
So it's not an handicap. Actually, it's an advantage. You can turn it around for you. And the other thing is this: when you are in leadership, you're a pastor, you have to identify the person that's a key person, a leader, and that is, and let me just throw that in. Most of the immigrants, when for them to make it here, they need some kind of leadership character in them, because they have to go through so many challenges to get here. So most of them, they have that leadership ability in them. So use that. Find a person that you can groom and put yourself into, and even if you just have English service, it's an inconvenience, but if you want to grow, sometimes there are growing pains. If you have people, make your service bilingual. I remember in Saint-LAURENT, the evening service used to be bilingual, even at the time where we'll have like 400 English speaking in the congregation, and maybe 5 French speaking people in the congregation. But Pastor Ramo always do it bilingual. They will preach in English, and it's with the person translating right away, how they call that, instantaneous, whatever.
Interpretation.
Interpretation live, you know. And they've been doing that for years, but now we have like 200, 300 people in that evening service. But when we started, there were nobody. And it seems like it's a waste of time. But if you're going to gain, you have to pay someone.
Amen.
So it's very important that even if you have 2, 3, give them that space, that consideration. You start translating your service. In the East End, we do French, Spanish, because we have 2 Spanish fund. Most of the time, there will be like 5, 6, 7 Spanish-speaking people. But every morning, we translate into Spanish, because we say in the future we're going to have a Spanish church. So we start preaching. Sometimes you just preach to the Spirit. So before the souls come, you just preach to the Spirit, and eventually they're going to come. You know, and those are things you can do. Now, time is really running out. I'm going to just talk 5 minutes, and then I'll let you ask a question about the cultural sensitivity. Now, though you'll find different culture, different people under the umbrella of French, few things you need to not do, like Africa is a continent, it's not a country. Like, and it's, a lot of Africans are kind of sensitive to that. Now, you know, there are many countries, many French-speaking people from different countries. So try to find out which country they are from. That is the first thing. When you find out the country, go Google it. You'll find a lot of information on the country. And then you just try to know their food. Everybody like can agree on food. You know, food is a very good bond for people. And try to know a little bit what language besides French they speak. You know, they have another native language. All of them. French is not really their native language. French is the official language of the country, but they have their own language. And you have to kind of show interest in finding out that now all Africans are almost the same. They have a lot of consideration for spiritual leadership, because African in general, they are spiritual. Now, you can utilize that to the advantage of the kingdom. One thing I'll tell you, I know North American culture is not like that at all, but African, pay them a visit at home if you're a pastor. Go visit their home. It is very important. It's huge for an African country to have a visit of a pastor, especially if the pastor is white. You have an unfair advantage being white. I can give you an anecdote, and it's true. It's not a prejudice, it is true. And use it, please, for the kingdom. You know, I went to Africa, to the Congo, in my own country, in 2013, with a brother from the church. He's Canadian, Caucasian. And we went there, and that guy was going everywhere. He'll go out and go walk. He went and walked and find a church and got in there. And for them, maybe it was the first white person to get into that building. And then they were all excited. And then they say, I'm coming from Canada, I have my pastor, he can come preach for you. They say, yes. If I went, they would never, never. So, you know, coming the day, the pastor showed up, he was black. But that was too late. When it was made. So I preached there. We had 7 received the Holy Ghost. We have 3 miracles. And then use it. Use it. Last year when I met my team, and when I make my team to go to the Congo, I always make sure I have a white guy with me. Because it's a door opener. It's a door opener. It's a door opener. Don't belittle that. Don't neglect that. You have a powerful advantage. We went with Brother Pablo, Brother Silvio. When we got there to the Congo, a lot of people were going to Brother Pablo and inviting him to all these churches. Nobody was coming to me. But they got the same truth. You know, they got the same truth. And then when they will go to him, he'll be like, okay, I have to go ask Pastor first. And they'll be like, yeah. And they say, brother, go preach. Go preach, baby. This is the only chance we have to go preach them the truth. So go visit them. And it's very important. Go to their house and they will offer you food. try to eat the food, even if it doesn't look good, most of the time it will taste good. Most of the time it doesn't look good, but just close your eyes, put it in your mouth, you won't regret it. It will taste good. Don't say no, I eat already. You will offend people. You know, even if you ate already, for them it's an honor for them for you to eat their food. Get interested in the children. When you get the children, you get the parents most of the time. Get interested in the children. We're losing a lot of second generation, and it's good to put a book on them, and they're gonna be the one that really will carry it to the next level. Yeah, you know, they are the bridge. So please don't neglect that. Reach the children. Really reach the children. Very important. If you notice, those are like fundamentals of reaching out any soul. Because a soul is just a soul. If there's love, there's care, you win them, no matter where they're coming from. No matter where they're coming from. Now, just be there, be present, give them the space, and don't be afraid to speak their language. Try to learn to pronounce their names properly. But most of them, if you're learning, you're showing that they don't get offended. But if you don't try, that's where you kind of lose people. Just do it. Just do it. So I'm gonna open this to question. I don't know if there's any question. Yes.
You mentioned about translating, verbally. I was wondering, is it still okay to use the translators?
Yes,
also,
it's still okay.
To use?
Yeah. Now, that's my perspective. It's still okay to use the earpiece. Sometimes the advantage of the earpiece, it doesn't slow down the service. But the handicap is it makes like people are a little bit disconnect with the spirit of the service. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, you talk over each other because the person is just going and you gotta just be going and the attention is kind of split. It's a tough saying. I found it, even for the translator, I found it very difficult. But when you do it simultaneously, I found it works very, very good. Very good, especially if the preacher kind of get the way of it, full sentences, not too long sentences, and you build up a rhythm, and it really works better, much better. Yes.
2 questions and 3 comments, is that
No,
okay?
no
I'm going to
problem.
speed talk. I love what you said about the live being better. We translate our discipleship class too. And I agree that live you're totally connected better.
Yeah.
Just not always possible. We give our translator our actual notes, like verbatim.
Okay.
So it's not easy for
Now,
some people.
this is my perspective. I do translate. I did translate for my life.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I do always live.
Okay.
But don't give them notes.
Oh, okay. It's worse.
It doesn't help them
Okay.
because you translate better when you're spontaneous.
Okay.
And when you know, you're thinking. You don't have to think. I do translate. My son translate, and I have another young man who translate as well. Really, you don't. At best, you give them the verse, but when you have the notes and you know what is coming, your mind is kind of works. So and it's not good.
Okay.
You just hear it and you pull it out. It comes in and come out.
Okay.
But without you developing it, it's
Okay.
better.
Awesome, thank
Yeah.
you. And when you said about visiting their home, I agree with you 1,000%. Is it the same universally? Because some cultures don't, it's not good for you to invite them to your home. They want you at their home, is it?
Yeah, you go to their home. I said you go to their home because it's a easier way, and they feel more honor for that.
Okay, so it's not the same.
Yeah. But if you invite them to your house, they are happy the same. But you have to go to their home.
Okay.
Yeah. Pastor came to my house. It's powerful.
Okay.
Yes.
The other thing that has been my experience is that through prayer, more so than Sunday, I find our African people, they want to serve on Sunday. Not that they don't want to be in church, but like you said, they're workers, they're leaders. But during the week, they pray for hours. Like, they put us to shame.
Yes.
Like hours upon hours upon hours. And so one of the big things to connect to our French people has been for me to really get plugged into how they pray during the week. And because if we don't have it, they'll be members at our church, but they'll go to prayer meetings all through the city and pray for hours.
Yeah.
So we gotta plug into that.
That's a different. I don't want to say problem, but challenge maybe. Now the thing is this: most of Africans, you can even go beyond French, even if they're English. Most Africans, they are very spiritual.
Yeah.
The culture is very spiritual. Witchcraft and all that. You don't need to convince them that spirituality is there. So being spiritual and living in those environments, they have a way to kind of fight, and they pray a lot. They are very strong in prayer, but the downside is doctrine is very weak. Very, very weak. You have prayer meeting here. I mean, with the North American churches, you have less people. You have teaching session, you have more people. But in Africa, it's reverse. You have prayer meeting, you have a house full of people. So overnight prayer meeting, they love overnight prayer meeting. That's something we don't do here in North America most of the time, but we do it in Montreal. They love overnight. They will come and they will pray for the night. They won't be sleeping. They will pray for the night.
Fiery prayer. All night long.
But the thing is doctrine, because that's what you have to teach them that they need the teaching to guide their prayer. Because you can pray all night, but if you don't have the concept, you don't understand who you're praying to, and then I always say the spiritual world is you cannot navigate into the spiritual world if you don't have the Word of God. You're gonna easily be lost or confused. So you have to teach. You have to give them the truth, but you can build on the love for prayer. Yes.
I wanted to ask if you could talk about our children. When you said reach the children, they don't respond as well
Yes.
to female authority.
Yes.
So we have had to really up our male presence in our Sunday school department for the African culture. Could you talk on that?
Yes, the African culture is very patriarchal. The father, I think we don't have time left. 5 minutes left? Okay, can we just do this, and because I think it's going to be useful in the next session. The African culture is very patriarchal. I mean, the father is the head, and the society is built over that. And female authority is not really a thing. So you use it, but when you're reaching out to children, I don't see a problem with that. And when you have the head of the family, that's when you gotta be mindful of that. But if you're reaching out to children, it's appropriate. There is no, I don't see any issue with that. And but the thing is, the children are very neglected. You know, they don't dedicate a lot of time to the children. Even when we went, we had to teach a children ministry, Sunday school. They don't just think that they can invest in the children, like right now, spiritually.
Right, yeah.
And if you do that, it makes a difference. It makes a huge, huge difference. So just go for the children. And most of the time, they're going to be the one, really. And especially with refugees, because some of them, they don't really speak that well French. It's the children that's going to really actually explain everything to the parents.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have to close here. And if you need anything or any contact, we have a table there. We will be there. Just meet us there, and we'll give you everything we can. And if you need one of these, grab one, and you can find the website where you can download all the books available and all the material. And please register with Maureen. We want your contact. And we're trying just to up our game and communicating better. Yes. Yes.